When you think of epic hikes in the United States, Mount Whitney is pretty close to the top of the list. This awe-inspiring mountain is the tallest peak in the US outside of Alaska, and it is climbed via a formidable 21 miles and 6,000 feet of elevation gain round trip. While it can be done as a day hike, we set out to do it in 2 days with an overnight at trail camp. This was my second summit of Mount Whitney and an experience with good friends that I will never forget. If you're interested in hiking this mountain or just seeing what the adventure is like, here's the full video of our climb up the tallest mountain in the lower 48. Let's jump into it. We decided to do the Mount Whitney hike over 3 days, and we started by driving up from Los Angeles to Lone Pine. We grabbed pizza at Pizza Factory before heading up to our campsite. Before any summit attempt, I usually try to stay at the campsite at the Whitney Portal, which is a great way to acclimatize as it's over 8,000 feet. I'll cover this in the planning video, but one of the best ways to have a successful summit is to give yourself time to adjust to the altitude. Most people come from sea level or somewhere near it, and so being able to sleep at 8,000 feet before starting your hike is a good way to do it. Plus, it also gives you time to head up to the Whitney store, buy any supplies or snacks you need, or get yourself some dinner. Also, be sure to head over to Portal Falls, which is really close to the store and is a pretty big waterfall right near the parking lot. We did this hike in September of 2023, and there was actually a pretty good amount of water coming through the falls that late in the season. After that, it was back to our campsite to eat our pizza, get our pack set up, and to play cards before going to bed. We got up around 7:30 and we headed over to the Portal store to grab some breakfast. If you're doing it as a day hike, you would have already started 6 hours before, but if you're doing it as a 2-day hike, you can have a nice relaxing morning.
Look at the size of that pancake. Jackson's a normal sized dude by comparison too. Smaller than average.
The Portal store is known for their pancakes, which overflow the plate, and we got one to share with all 3 of us. Shout out to Doug, who's always cooking up some amazing food when we're there, and we definitely do this for breakfast before we head out and dinner when we get back. Before starting the trail, be sure to fill up your water. This is the last time you can do it without filtering, and use the bathroom, as this is the last bathroom you can do without using a wag bag.
All right, here we go. 2 days to hike the Mount Whitney Trail, and I'm here with Zach and Jared.
The trail always begins with walking to the information center and weighing your bags to see who has the heaviest.
Let's see. You're on 30,
not that far
32.
off. Yeah, that's way better than before.
Good about that?
With water, yes.
47? Yeah. All right, I'm last up. I don't have my camera, so that's an extra couple pounds.
That's cheating.
Yeah. 32. Zach and I are completely the same. With the extra,
Nice.
I'm like 35 with the camera, but I'll take 32. So they're supposed to have wag bags at the trailhead, but all of the wag bag containers are completely empty. All right, guys, here we go. Confidence level out of 10.
8.9. 7.
Yeah, because of that bag weight.
From here, our journey up Mount Whitney officially began. This hike is around 21.5 miles round trip with about 6,000 feet of elevation gain. Our plan for the first day was to do 6 miles and 4,000 feet of elevation gain to get to trail camp, where we were going to camp for the night at around 12,000 feet. Then on the second day, we would summit in the morning and hike all the way back out. The first couple miles on the trail are basically just long switchbacks that head in and out of the trees as you make your way up.
This trail is insanely beautiful right from the beginning.
Our packs were a lot lighter than they were the first time we did this trail, as there was so much water that it was easy to filter along the way.
We're doing this trail in late September, and we got as lucky as you possibly could. There's supposed to be no clouds, no wind, just a nice sunny day today and tomorrow.
Soak in the shade while you get it, as when you get above about 10,500 feet, there's basically no more trees and no more shade the rest of the trail. As long as you have hiking poles, most of the water crossings are easy to navigate.
Officially entering the John Muir Wilderness.
If you do this hike, the first mile and a half is the part you're going to be cursing on the way back to the car. It feels like you can see the road for a long time and then it still takes forever to get there.
We're a little over a mile in and just above 9,000 feet. We're gonna keep pushing till we get to Lone Pine Lake, and that's gonna be our lunch spot.
As we gained elevation, you could start to see the first of many waterfalls that you'll see along this trail.
One of the reasons I've never been interested in one-daying it, outside of the sheer physical conditioning you need to be in, is just the beautiful views you miss when you're hiking in the dark.
While this is a long and grueling trail, I have to say it's probably one of the most beautiful I've ever done in my life. You'll see as the day continues how epic the trail gets.
You can see the portal road way down there, noting where we started, and now we're all the way up here. This is definitely a tough trail, lots of elevation gain, but the switchbacks in the beginning are relatively gradual and they're pretty well maintained without a lot of big rocks. We're almost up to Lone Pine Lake. It's right at the base of the mountains right there.
As we crossed the next bend, we saw a collection of 30 horses or mules that were making their way back down the trail carrying a bunch of gear. This gear was being used by a group that was working to make the trail better.
We're about a quarter of a mile away from Lone Pine Lake, where we're gonna stop and have our lunch.
Continuing on, the trail is more of the same, just going up on switchbacks and in and out of the shade from the trees.
Look at all the water flow. That's a lot more than I saw last time I was here.
As you pass this waterfall and make your way around the bend to Lone Pine Lake, you'll see one of the most photographed spots on the trail. This series of logs allow you to cross through a section that's basically always wet on the Mount Whitney Trail. Plus they look pretty cool, so they're always being photographed and put on social media.
We made it to the turnoff for Lone Pine Lake. We're gonna stash our bags here and go down and just have some lunch. And it's crazy how easy everything feels when you take your pack off.
Lone Pine Lake is about 1/10 of a mile off the trail, and I think it's one of the most beautiful parts on the Mount Whitney Trail, so I definitely recommend you do it. If there's no wind, then the lake is basically glass, reflecting the trees and the massive mountains that surround it. Plus, it's the perfect break spot for lunch or a snack if you're doing the hike in 2 days.
Have you ever seen a better place to have a lunch, Zach, than this?
Definitely not.
Also, can we get a comment as to whether or not the PB&J tortilla is okay? Zach and I both vote no, but Jared votes full yes.
This is superb. I love it.
This was one of those spots that it was hard to pull yourself away from, and we spent about 30 minutes here just soaking in the views and having a break.
Also, you can hike directly to this lake without having a Whitney permit, so if you want to come up here and explore, you can go to here and then basically right past the lake. You can't go any further without a permit. Saying goodbye to our beautiful lunch spot at Lone Pine Lake, heading on towards trail camp. So about 2 minutes past the turnoff for Lone Pine Lake, you will officially enter the Whitney zone, and you will get ticketed if you do not have a permit past this spot.
I talk a lot more about permits in the Planning Mount Whitney video, but of course I don't recommend you do it without a permit. On both of my hikes, I've been stopped by a ranger to see the permits, and I've known people who have gotten tickets and who have gotten turned around close to the summit because they didn't have one.
Check it out, you can see how far we've come from Lone Pine Lake down there. Been gaining some elevation pretty quickly.
As you get your last views of Lone Pine Lake, the trail bends around and continues to head up towards Outpost Camp. This is another section that will take your breath away on the trail.
Woo! That is a beautiful view right there.
When you enter this area, you see basically the most green you'll see on the entire Mount Whitney Trail. The lush valley has a small creek running through it and massive rocks on either side.
I remember this spot being beautiful, but nothing like this. This is stunning.
This area is about 3.5 miles in and 10,400 feet of elevation. It's one of the 2 places you can camp on the trail, so if you wanted to take 3 days, you could always camp here and go a little bit slower. I've never wanted to camp here as it just seems too far away from the summit, but I do have to say it's incredibly beautiful and there's a massive waterfall on one side.
This is a perfect place for a rest and to filter water. It's flowing great right here, and there's a waterfall out there. It's not hard to beat.
We were using one of the squeezable filters, which makes it really easy. You just dip it in the water and then you squeeze it through. As we said goodbye to the outpost camp area, we had about 2,000 more feet left to go and 3 miles to get to our camping spot.
The thing I forget about this trail is just how big everything is. I mean, we're at 10,600 feet, something like that, and we still have massive mountains all around us.
For the entire rest of the time that you're on the trail, you'll be above 10,000 feet, so this is where altitude can start being an issue for people as well.
I can't get over how beautiful that area is. Even as you're climbing out and it's steep, the views back toward it make it totally worth it.
As you continue to climb up, you'll be greeted by another big water crossing that you have to use stones to get across before taking the short spur over to Mirror Lake. This spur is much shorter than the one to Lone Pine Lake, and you should definitely do it. We didn't take our backpacks off or stay long, we just soaked in the views for about 5 minutes and then continued up on the trail. Leaving Mirror Lake behind means that you're basically leaving the tree line behind as well. There are some trees as you continue to make your way up this steep rocky section, but once you make it to the top, the trees, and with that the shade, is basically gone for the entire rest of the hike.
Check it out, from here you can see all the way down to Lone Pine Lake. Way down there.
This is the first of a few reminders to make sure you bring sun protection. I recommend the shade shirts that have the hood, which help a lot with the sun, plus a hat and of course sunscreen. Even at high elevations, it can be really hot and the sun can burn you pretty quickly.
So we did just get stopped by the ranger for our permit. She said she turned 9 people around yesterday who didn't have a permit, so don't do it without a permit.
From here, it's basically the same. The trail just continues to go up. There's no trees for shade, but the views are pretty epic. As you get close to about 5 miles in and 11,500 feet, you'll reach an area called Trailside Meadows.
We made it to Trailside Meadows, which is probably my favorite place on the Mount Whitney Trail. We're gonna filter water, have a snack before we head all the way up to camp.
The thing that makes Trailside Meadows so special is it's just not what you'd expect to see as you're doing this part of the trail. Before this, you're climbing over nothing but rock, and then you get to this one section where there's a creek, and there's grass, and there's snow, and it's just serene. Do note that there's no camping allowed here, but it is a great place to filter water.
I mean, really though, how stunning is this spot?
The serene feeling of Trailside Meadows goes away quickly as you start to climb the switchbacks that continue up towards trail camp.
All right, I can officially say I'm getting pretty tired.
Here, the well-manicured trail that you're used to becomes rugged with lots of big rocks that you have to constantly be looking out for as you're walking up.
It's so impressive every time you turn around to be able to see how far you've gone on this trail. Just keeps going up.
As you continue up, you'll see the mountain peaks that surround Consultation Lake. You'll only get a few views of this lake from the trail, but it is stunning to see. Plus, when we were there this time, there was even a little waterfall that you could get in the front with the lake in the back. The first time I did this trail, I was too exhausted here to care about the lake, but on this trip, I was looking for every viewpoint I could find. The best by far is when you cross over the small creek and you'll see the lake on your left-hand side before you head inland towards trail camp.
We have almost made it to trail camp. So close. I'm ready to sit down.
With just a little bit more perseverance, we finally reached the sign that noted trail camp.
Made it to trail camp. Yeah, Jared. Yay. Trail camp. Hey, Zach.
Did it. Woo-hoo. Yes.
After arriving at trail camp, there are lots of different campsites you can pick out, many of which have had rock walls built around them to protect you from the wind. We set up 2 different tents as my friend Kirby was gonna come up and spend the night, but he had to leave after work and so he hiked by himself.
All right, we got the tent set up. We're filtering water now. Next order of business is to make dinner and then get ready for tomorrow's summit day. Rocking the beef stroganoff tonight. With this view, how do you beat that?
It's pretty nice to be up at trail camp with time to kill as you get to watch the sunset and just soak in the beautiful views all around you. There's a lake right next to the campground which has water flowing into it from the west side, and it's a great place to filter water for the next day's adventure. So tomorrow we leave camp bright and early and then we head up the 99 switchbacks to Trail Crest, and then we have to go across the entire backside of this ridge line to Mount Whitney. I'm pretty tired. I think I'm going to sleep good tonight, but I am pretty excited about the summit, but not going all the way back down. We're just sitting here playing cards, and then look at who showed up. Kirby.
Hey.
This was my good friend Kirby's 3rd summit of Mount Whitney, and he was pretty excited to do it with us as the previous times had been by himself.
I headed over to catch last light in the valley, which is pretty awesome right now. And then that's our campsite, and then that is where we're heading tomorrow, but we're heading to bed because we got an early start.
Five o'clock in the morning, time to start the summit hike. Rehydrating my breakfast of champions. Zach is getting ready with his red light on.
How are we feeling? Confidence level?
Oh, confidence is an 11.5 right now.
Ooh,
Off the charts. I got about 30 minutes sleep. I'm doing good. Half a Chipotle burrito from yesterday. Yeah, we're in good shape right now. We're gonna do this.
Let's do it.
Zach's going up the rear. You can see the headlights of people up on the switchbacks in front of us.
Both of the times I've done this hike, I've woken up at 5 a.m. and tried to start by 5:30. This does 2 things for you. First, it allows you to see the sunrise from the switchbacks or from Trail Crest depending on how fast you hike. And second, it usually allows you to start before most of the other campers and day hikers get to the switchbacks. This allows you to have the summit mainly to yourself if you get there relatively quickly.
You can see the sun is starting to rise, and you can see all the headlamps coming up from trail camp and from day hikers below us. And we are way up here. I actually have a shot of you guys hiking with some stars above you.
Maybe it's just me, but I also feel like the switchbacks go a lot faster in the dark as you're just putting one foot in front of the other and you're not thinking about much.
Such an incredible morning, no wind, beautiful weather on the trail, and that sunrise.
Every step we took, the views changed with the way that the light was coming in from the sunrise. I feel like this is some of my favorite hiking footage I've ever taken.
We're about 30 switchbacks in. Views are getting incredible.
The 99 switchbacks are a pretty infamous part of the Mount Whitney route. Here the route climbs about 1,600 feet in a little over 2 miles.
This is the section known as the cables because the snow can be here pretty late in the season and make it a little sketchy, but right now it's not too sketchy as long as you stay to the side.
The problem with this section is how icy it can be and the long drop-offs on the right side. It's definitely a section that people will bring micro spikes for, especially if you do it early in the season. You may be saying that 2 miles and 1,600 feet doesn't seem that bad, but do remember that you're starting at 12,000 and going up past 13,000 feet. The altitude can really get you in this section.
As you can see, some of these switchbacks are so tiny. That's why they can call them the 99 switchbacks. That's where we started from, way down there. It's a lot to bring your pack up here and to camp and everything, but I mean, I think this is worth it, don't you?
Right before the sun popped out over the horizon, we were greeted with a beautiful alpine glow on the mountains.
Oh my gosh, I can't get over this. This is so incredibly beautiful. The glow on the mountains. Haven't even been able to hike, I've just been stopping too much. But can you blame me? Look at this. Wow. And there's the sunrise.
I've been blessed to see a lot of amazing sunrises, but I don't know if I can compare any of them to this one.
You guys, I hope you're sharing this magical moment with me. I'm not even tired. This is just one of the most beautiful sunrises I've ever seen in my life.
By this time, we were probably around switchback 75, and we didn't have too many more to go before we reached Trail Crest.
There's a small snow section right before you reach Trail Crest.
Before doing any hike that might have potential snow sections, I recommend reading All Trails reviews so you can see what the up-to-date conditions are. I already knew going in that I wasn't going to need my micro spikes for this section, but if there was a section where I did need them and I hadn't read about it, I wouldn't have been prepared.
I am getting tired, but we are almost to Trail Crest, and then we go along the backside all the way over to Whitney, which you can't really see.
During this section, the trail unfortunately heads downhill, which it does a few times on the way to the summit.
Here we are, we have made it to Trail Crest.
Trail Crest sits at 13,600 feet, and when you cross over here, this is where you enter Sequoia National Park.
Saying goodbye to the sunshine and into the cold shade.
The first time I did this hike, there was wind on this backside section, and it was one of the coldest I've ever been in my life.
This part of the trail is not as fun because you're at 13,100 feet at Trail Crest, and then you have to go downhill and back up. This is the junction with the High Sierra Trail and the JMT right here. So people leave their bags to go hit Whitney, and then they come back and get them and go out the portal.
From this junction, you're still 2 miles from the summit of Whitney. Also, there's a sign noting extreme danger from lightning, and if there's any storm coming in, you should definitely not be this high. During this section, it's a lot of mental strength, just putting one foot in front of the other as you continue to trudge along. Luckily, the views out towards the left over Sequoia National Park are pretty impressive. There's a few lakes down there, and of course the mountains out in the distance.
The summit is finally in view right up there.
The trail here is incredibly rocky as it hugs the side of the mountain and has big drop-offs on the left-hand side. It's crazy that once you finally see Mount Whitney, it's still a long ways to go to get to that summit. It feels like this part takes forever as you continue to go up and down on gradual slopes as you make your way forward. This is also where you'll reach the first of 3 windows, which are big breaks between the rocks that you've been walking alongside and that give you amazing views down towards the trail you came up and out into the distance.
This is windows number 3.
There's a couple more windows you'll get to before the summit, and they provide great break points, as the views here are spectacular and there's usually a rock you can sit on.
We have made it to 14,000 feet, and everybody says that they feel like they're at 14,000 feet. Only 500 feet left to go.
Again, if you do this, be prepared for the cold. It wasn't too bad for us because there wasn't a lot of wind, but it can be absolutely freezing up here.
So there's a lot of snow right now on the original path. Kirby and Zach elected to do the snow. Jared and I are taking this alternate path that they set up, which is steeper, but doesn't have any snow.
The trail that they created to go around the main snowfield was super steep, so we took lots of breaks on this section.
We're making the final push to the summit. Should be able to see the summit hut on the top of that hill.
We knew we couldn't be far away, and we were just waiting to cross the ridge and see the hut.
Jared, what is it? It's the hut! Yeah. We're almost to the summit. There's no better view in the entire world than seeing that summit hut when you're on this trail.
It was hard to conserve our energy and not want to just run to the summit hut.
Jared, you're on top of the world.
Seriously.
Tallest in the lower 48. How's it feel?
Feels amazing.
Yeah, good job, buddy.
Good job, man.
Yes.
Good job, man. Good?
Fist bump.
That's not good enough.
Heck yeah. 14,500 feet. We have made it to the summit of Mount Whitney, the tallest spot in the lower 48. This is incredible. I feel emotional about it. I haven't been here in 12 years, and just seeing these views and having this epic adventure with friends, it's pretty hard to beat.
Even though this was my second time getting to the summit, words cannot describe how amazing it feels to be up here. Standing on the tallest mountain outside of Alaska and seeing the 360-degree views that go over multiple national parks and out over Highway 395 and into the distance is just something you cannot comprehend without being here for yourself. Plus, the sheer physical and mental challenge that it takes to get up here is just something that I'll never forget. Oh, and also there's reception, so you can FaceTime from the summit if you want.
Pops didn't make it, so I got him on FaceTime right here, seeing the summit views.
Wow, look at that.
I know it's been 12 years since I've been up here. But yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Here's just a few more views from the 30 minutes we spent hanging out at the top. Of course, remember that getting to the top is only halfway and you still have to get all the way back down.
How do you feel about this summit, Zach?
Feeling pretty good. It's
Yeah.
beautiful up here.
It's compared to 2012, which you can watch up here if you want a good laugh.
That was pretty savage. This is much nicer.
Much nicer. And this is Kirby's third summit.
Number 3, baby.
How does it compare to the other two?
You know, the other 2 were good, but I'm here with you guys, so that just takes it to a whole nother level.
Aww.
Oh, I'm getting a phone call. That sucks.
Leave a like for Kirby's being sentimental for once. Oh, why thank you, Jared. I will take some of these. Jared, how does your first Whitney summit feel?
Freaking epic, dude.
Yeah?
I'm like on a freaking high. I'm just like adrenaline rush. Like I'm excited. I could go do another mountain.
I think that means Jared's carrying our bag down the hill, right?
I think so. Yes, sir.
No, I gotta carry my own heavy bag.
Unfortunately, we decided it was time to head down, so we went over to the summit hut to sign the register before making our descent.
All right, we're leaving the top of Mount Whitney. Awesome time hanging out with these guys, hiking to the top of the tallest mountain in the lower 48. Hopefully you enjoyed coming along with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Do remember that getting to the summit is only halfway. You still have to make it all the way back down. This is especially true if you backpacked, as you have to get back, pack up all your stuff, and then carry it all the way back down. It's a long haul and we got very tired by the end, but we made it back just in time to get dinner at the Portal store.
Thanks for sticking around to the end to see this monstrosity of a burger that I'm about to demolish. Cheers, Zach. Cheers to Mount Whitney. I'll see you on the next one.